What is going on, guys? Thank you so much for joining me on this beautiful Tuesday morning, afternoon, evening. Doesn't matter what time of the day you're watching, listening. If you're rumbling, if you're listening to this sucker on Rumble, shout out to you. We do it for America. I don't know. I decided to make a Rumble account and go ahead and throw my podcast up there. I'm not a Rumble guy. I don't say anything that would put me on Rumble. I think Rumble's kind of got like this narrative that it's for like the far right, or it's for people that are like super staunch like Trump supporters, which I'm neither. I'm not a Trump supporter, but I say like I've never voted for the man. Um, I also wouldn't consider myself like a far right kind of guy. But what I will say is I am a guy who has a podcast, and I am a dude who's trying to get views and downloads and listens, and it is another platform out there. So I would be dumb and reminced to not use the platform. The platform's there. So that's kind of all I want to say on that. So you can rumble the podcast as well. If you guys are on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to the podcast, if you guys can go ahead and just like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help me a lot. Let's get comfortable today. So hopefully everyone's doing well. 1 second. Yeah, hopefully everyone's doing well out there. I know I've kind of... Anyways, let's just get into a few topics today. I want to go over a bunch of different things. I wanted to spend a little bit of time in the NFL. A few weeks have gone by now. I think it's been like 4 weeks. At the time of the recording of this podcast, it's been 3 weeks. Right, the Thursday night game was played yesterday, where Tua Tagovailoa, I think that's his name, was injured. I also want to talk about Ariel. I think I might like really dive in a little bit on like Jordan Peterson. I'm just gonna kind of be everywhere today on this podcast, but for the most part, I'm going to talk a little bit about the NFL. I might even get into like my job search. I also put out this clip I think 2 weeks ago where I talked about like being a victim of my own life. I think I kind of want to dive into that a little bit, explain what I was trying to say there a little bit more in depth. In addition to that, if you guys want to go ahead and just like, subscribe, comment, review, do all that, send the podcast to a friend who might enjoy listening to me speak and ramble for an hour. We're also closing into 300 episodes, which is insane. I think I'm on year 3 of the podcast. I've been doing this thing since 2019, right before the pandemic hit is when I uploaded my first podcast. So I just want to give a big thank you to everybody internationally and also nationally who listens to the podcast on a regular basis. I do know it's a lot of people out there. I get the stats, I get the numbers, and all I got to say is thank you so much for all the support I do receive. I know sometimes it doesn't seem like I say thank you enough, but I do. I mean, it means the world that everyone listens to the podcast. Especially nowadays, there's so much content out there you could be listening to, and the fact that you still choose mine every single week is amazing. I want to talk a little bit about the NFL season. I'm obviously a Green Bay Packers fan. I get that a lot. People always ask me why. It's pretty simple. My grandfather, I don't know if I should say it, but I think I will say it. My grandfather worked in the CIA. He worked throughout the entire world. I don't really know what he did. I don't know really where he served. Nobody knows. He hasn't really told anybody. Now the dude, my grandfather has Alzheimer's, so now he can't really tell anybody. But he worked for the CIA for a number of years, and he was a traveling man. And with being a traveling man, you have a traveling family. And when you have a traveling family, you have your home is wherever you set up shop for the week is. And because of that, my dad was born in Wisconsin. He was born in Sheboygan, Wisconsin. I don't know, it's probably a top 10 population density city in Wisconsin. It's not that big. It's not that small. It's not Milwaukee, but it's also not like a Fountain City. I think it's a little bit bigger than like a La Crosse, Wisconsin. It's probably like the equivalent of like Annapolis, Maryland, or maybe a little bit smaller than like Roanoke, Virginia. But he was born there, right? He was born in Sheboygan. Because of that, he grew up a Packers fan, and because of that, I grew up a Packers fan. My mom was born in Prince George's County, where she grew up as a Redskin fan. Now the Commanders. So I kind of always grown up with football, watching the Commanders and the Green Bay Packers, and I've always been a fan of football, right? I don't play fantasy football. I don't get like that deep into it. I know a lot of people do. Like I think most of my friends, most of my family, they get that deep into it. I'm not one to do that, specifically because it's really time consuming, and I know if I were to get into it, I would get very much deep into it, and I don't need that right now in my life. I have a lot of other things going on. But so and then like during 2020, there was a bunch of stuff with like Aaron Rodgers and him not taking the vaccine, and then I've always been a fan of like Brett Favre, right? Brett Favre's always kind of been like my guy, and within like the past few years, I haven't really paid attention to him too much. I know he's had like a few scandals here and there, but the reason why I liked Brett Favre so much was because that was like the quarterback I watched growing up, right? I think his last season might have been like 2000. Let me see. I guess I can look it up real quick. Brett Favre playing career. I know he went to the. How many teams I know he played? Okay, 20 seasons. 1969. I don't know. It doesn't really tell me. 92 to 2010. Yeah, so he played from 92 to 2010. So I was 4 years old when I was born. When I was born, he was in fourth year in the league. So he played up until I was 14. So from like 8 years old to 14, that was the guy I grew up on. And then after 2010, obviously it was Aaron Rodgers. So I just have like some of my best memories during football is with Brett Favre. And I remember that game where he lost his father and he came back the next day and he lit up the Oakland Raiders at the time. Oakland Raiders, now Las Vegas Raiders. But I just remember I've fell in love with the guy. Like I really thought of him as like he was a man. And I know he's like addicted to like Percocets and stuff like that. And then his wife had like breast cancer and he lost his father. And I really took on like that kind of person, like just somebody who, during all of this ups and downs and struggling in life, he still persevered. And as an NFL player and like as a football player, like, he's amazing. And then you watch these stories like the one that just recently came out where he like got caught up in like siphoning out like millions and millions and millions of dollars from the welfare system or the Medicare system in Mississippi. And when you see something like that, when you're a fan of somebody, you get upset. You get upset and it makes you sad. And I think I've just kind of been, when that story came out, it sucked because, you kind of watch your heroes fall from a ladder, right? You put these people, I think this is an issue we have with a lot of people is we put people at a stature. And I think we do that subconsciously. We do that especially with people who are in the media or people who have large social followings or people who've been in big movies and stuff like that, that when they do something wrong, it very much like strikes a chord with you, and it's not their fault and it's not your fault. I think it's just the nature of being a fan of somebody. And that one sucked. I didn't, that one really did suck because I don't know, you take a step back and you're like, damn, was that person like the person I thought who they were? But it's like they weren't portraying anything. I was just only paying attention to the good things about that person. And I think you see this a lot in the world that we live in. And, that sucked. And then I saw this thing that came out with like Adam Levine. Like this Adam Levine thing is super fascinating to me, at least. As somebody who I've been somebody who's been cheated on, right? I've never cheated on anybody, but I've been cheated on. And I see these things that happen. And like the same thing that happened with like the Celtics basketball coach. And then like the thing that happened with Adam Levine. And it happens a number of times where like male celebrities will cheat on their female partners. And it's so weird to me because that's not a crime, right? Being somebody who cheats on your partner is not a crime. Like you won't go to jail for that. I think it's a reason to like get out of a marriage. Like I think you can use that as like an excuse for a divorce if you're a woman being infidelity. But I'm just so confused about like the backlash that people always like. When I saw Adam Levine like trending on social media, I was like, oh, what did he do? Did he like beat his wife? Did he like do something to harm somebody, like physically harm somebody? And I look it up and it's like he cheated on his pregnant wife. It's like that's not a crime. Like I'm not advocating for cheating on people, but what I'm also saying is chill out, bro. Like and like the most of the girls and like guys who are complaining about this, I 100% guarantee you that a lot of these individuals have cheated on their partners in relationships a number of times. And I think that's what really bothers me is like, I don't, well, first of all, it shouldn't bother me, but it does because, people cheat. It's not a, it sucks, right? Like, I mean, from firsthand experience, it sucks, right? When you get cheated on, it sucks because like, I think what sucks the most about it is everything that you thought that you've had in this world kind of gets flipped on its backside. And it's like, that's not real anymore. And I think it's like a magic trick. It's like a magic trick at a magic show that you never attended, like you never wanted to go to, but it's the reality. It's like what you're living through, and I think that sucks. And I think it also sucks knowing that somebody that you have a relationship with is also having a relationship with somebody else, and then you also got to deal with all the nonsense that comes along with that, where it's like, well, what if I picked up something from this person from somebody else, or then you got to deal with like I'm lucky enough because I didn't take like that trauma where I think a lot of people who've been cheated on lose trust in a lot of people. And I think this is something I kind of want to get into a little bit more outside of the Adam Levine thing. Like, get over it. Like, he cheated on his pregnant wife. That sucks. Like, girls cheat on their guys every day. Guys cheat on their girlfriends every single day. And, people are making these cases. It's like, she's she's a Victoria's Secret angel. She's pregnant. Like, you're the scum of the earth. Meanwhile, these same people, 5 years ago were voting Adam Levine as like sexiest man of the year. Like I don't understand that. Like none of that makes sense. And like this whole culture that we live in right now where it's like this very like woke world that we've taken on. There's so many contradictions in it. There's so much hypocrisy in it in terms of like if you listen to rap music, like the music that these people listen to, that like millennials and young people listen to, all of it is super misogynistic. Like none of the music that people listen to is like caring for women. I mean, you can listen to any song by like NBA YoungBoy or like I don't know, like Lil Pump or any of these people, and I understand it's like a meme, but like if you listen to the lyrics, it's like threatening death on people. It's like talking about like everyone being like cheating on each other. It's like none of it's good. So like there's always these contradictions that happen in a society. But like there's the one thing that like people got to understand, like, and I feel like I feel like what I'm about to say is a very unpopular opinion, but it's one that I do behold. If you're in a relationship with somebody and that person ends up cheating on you, it's not that person's fault 100%. And I think that's something that people tend to forget. Like what is a relationship? A relationship is basically two people, same sex, opposite sex, find each other attractive sexually, physically, emotionally, mentally. They have a decent amount of things in common. They have a lot of things that are not in common. They have personalities that are similar, but personalities that are also different as well. And the job is to progress in this world, grow as individuals, while also maintaining a strength from within each other. So you can go through this world at an easier rate in a more loving and enjoyable way with somebody else. Like that's what a relationship is. So to think that after 10 years, when someone cheats on you, you can just place all that blame on one person where while the entire time it was a team, it doesn't make sense to me. If you're someone who's been cheated on, I think this is an unpopular opinion, but I think there is a real purpose in looking within. And when you look within, look where you might have gone wrong as well. Did you check out earlier in the relationship? Did you give reason not to be trusted? Did you say hurtful things? Did you do things that were possibly hurtful? Did you not apologize when times were supposed to be apologized for? But this is like but I think the reason why I'm saying this is every time I see a celebrity get cheated on, it's like such a big deal. It's like it shouldn't be a big deal. It is what it is. Like, I don't know, maybe this is like my whole thing with like the woke movement, this woke culture is none of it's a big deal. Like it truly isn't. Unless you're causing harm to somebody, most of this stuff like just doesn't matter. And it becomes a joke after a while. Like there's been like this viral news story going around about this. I think it's a gentleman who I could be completely wrong, but there's a school teacher who has these huge knockers, just like I'm talking just massive dinosaur eggs for tits. And they're just sitting up here and this I think it's a he or she, and she put these massive tits on to make it a joke, because it is a joke. Because if you identify now as a certain thing that's like a protected category, a protected group of people, you cannot get in trouble anymore. Like you just can't get in trouble. It's impossible to get in trouble because it's a protected group of people. Even if that person is doing it, even though that person is completely just making fun of it, it's a satire of a movement. And I think people don't realize that. It's like everything that's been happening for like the past 4 to 5 years, like this woke movement, it's fizzling out. Like it truly is. I think just recently, like Hannah Gatsby, who is this comedian who I like. I really like Hannah Gatsby. My girlfriend, we sat down, we watched her. Hannah Gatsby's an autistic comedian. She's part of the LGBTQIA+ plus community, and she became very famous because she put out a Netflix special basically saying that she's done with comedy and saying that the art of comedy is wrong, right? That it's hurtful. And because of that, she doesn't want to be part of it anymore. And she put out a special and it went viral. And then she came back for her second special after she said she was done with comedy. And then when she did that special, she said she was done with comedy again. And then Dave Chappelle put out a special that a lot of people deem transphobic. I myself did not deem it transphobic at all. Just a bunch of comedians started putting out other forms of art, and that's what comedy is. It's an art form, right? To be able to make people laugh, to make people be able to cry, scream, smile. That's all an art form, and to get people to that point, you have to play in a character of who you are. And the issue with comedy is that when Mel Gibson has an idea of a movie that he wants to do, he can hire actors and actresses, and they play that image, that idea that he has in his head. They take that image, and it's vocalized through them, so he can't get in trouble. Like that scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where Brad Pitt took the woman's head and just bashed it up against like the placement of the fireplace. Like that's not real. Obviously, that's not real. It's an imagination of the director's head, right? From his head. And we can do that with movies. We can even do that with plays. It's like Halloween, right? Like you see a kid come up to your door, wants candy, and they're dressed up as like a pumpkin or like a Power Ranger. Like that's not who the person is. Comedy, for some reason, it doesn't get that exemption. And the reason why it doesn't get that exemption is because they are not dressed up. They're wearing what everyone else is wearing. And because of that, whenever they say anything, they don't have a costume that they could take off and be like, that's not actually me. That was just this character I was playing. But in reality, it is a character that they're playing. But you see Hannah Gatsby, she comes out and she just bashes the entire organization. I think I pulled let me pull up the quote right here. Hannah Gatsby. Yeah, okay, here we go. So Hannah Gatsby said, this was a couple years ago, or probably last year, probably year or 2 years ago. She said, quote, F you, Netflix boss Ted Sarandos, and your amoral algorithm cult. Let me read that again. F you, Ted Sarandos, who's the CEO of Netflix, and your amoral algorithm cult. And then just recently, the Hollywood Reporter, and she reported, let me pull it up on her own Netflix just so I can get it right from the, as they say, from the horse's mouth. That's not a shot. She doesn't look like a horse. She's beautiful. She said, I'm chuffed I don't know what chuffed means, but she's Australian, to announce that Netflix has agreed to work with me on a stand-up special that will showcase genderqueer voices from around the world. I won't lie, this made my decision to do a third solo special with them a little easier. So on that note, I'm pretty excited to be filming my new feel-good show, Body of Work, at the Sydney Opera House. Yep, I'm back at the scene of the Nanette crime. The taping is a happening tomorrow night and Thursday. The shebang of it will premiere on Netflix at some point in the future, I suppose. It's hard to say exactly because this is a flower and algorithms are boring. So that's basically what happens, and this happens every time anything ever happens in the world of entertainment, is these individuals, they trash something, right? Like in her case, she's absolutely just bashing Netflix because I guess they shine a light on Dave Chappelle. They give him an ability to talk and share his opinions, and she doesn't agree with it. So she goes on there and she says it's absolute garbage. Netflix sucks. He's transphobic. And then she signs a deal. I mean, she probably got paid millions to do another special with them. And I think this is like the issue with everything, is that people are going to stop believing anything you say anymore because none of it's true. And I spoke about it on my last podcast, but I'll speak about it again. Like, there's this narrative that's still trying to get pushed from the top down, from our president down to the press secretary to governors. There's so many narratives that are trying to get pushed that are just factually not true. And the first one is our economy is doing well. Like, there's always a lag. Like, whenever there's inflation, these companies will eventually have to start laying off people when there's inflation. Is it right away? No, it's not going to be right away. But with time, these inflation numbers, when they stay high for a consistent period of time, unemployment is kicked into second gear. So for like the last 4 months, people have been able to say this is the strongest economy we've ever had because our employment numbers are still high. They're going to start decreasing. Companies, huge tech companies, huge regular companies have already announced that they're going to start cutting jobs left and right. Apple has said that they're reducing the production of the iPhone because people aren't buying it anymore. And that's important. Like, that's a big deal because people who love Apple are Apple obsessed. I mean, I'm not even Apple obsessed, but I have all Apple products because you don't even have to be Apple obsessed anymore to have all Apple products. And I have all Apple products, like a laptop, headphones, my phone itself. I can go on and on. I have so many Apple things. But you have this situation where, like, the recession that we're about to get into is gonna be harsh. And what I'm scared of the most is that with these midterms, you have two options. You have one option, the Republicans can completely come in, take over the Senate, take over the House. And then you have the other option where the White House manages to convince people that the Republicans are as evil as people say they are, which is complete nonsense. And the House and Senate will stay blue and it won't turn red. That second option won't happen. It's going to become Republican again. And either way, after these midterms, that's when the economy is going to completely fall apart. You got to understand, like, this everything that we're experiencing right now is I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm not going to go out and say it's like planned. I know a lot of people say that like this is all part of a bigger plan, like the Great Reset. I don't. Here's my opinion with like the Great Reset and all that jazz that people are spewing. I don't believe that. Like I don't believe in like the whole idea of like a Great Reset. I don't think like there's anybody at the top who's out there trying to completely tear apart the economy and trying to like feed people cockroaches and trying to like create like one world power. Like I don't I don't personally prescribe to any of that. Some people do. And that's their narrative. That's completely fine. But I think what's happened is presidents, senators, and people have always were supposed to be like objective, right? They were supposed to be people who brought the country together, right? If you are a Democrat or you're a Republican and you win your president, you become president or you become whatever, your job is to cater to the country and not just cater to the side who got you elected. But what has happened now since I would say since Barack Obama, there's been this narrative where if you become in a position of power, your job is to bash the other side and just speak to your side. And that happened with Donald Trump, right? Like he did that. When he became president, he just bashed liberals, right? He called them like loony left. Like he was brutal to them. And it's one of the reasons why I don't like the guy. It's one of the reasons why I think he's an absolute psychopath. And it's one of the reasons why I don't think he won again as a president, because you can only do that so much to a group of people. And then it's happening with like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Like you have Kamala Harris out there who's literally saying like North Korea is our like ally. Like she's on record saying that North Korea is our ally. The country that's full on communist and starves out its people, kills its people, like that those people are our allies. I'm not saying that America has done a lot of things right. I mean, we started an entire war off a false premise by George Bush. Iraq was a completely false war. Like they never had weapons of mass destruction, anything like that. But we went to war off a premise that they did. Like I'm not here to say like I'm a patriot, right? Like I love this country, but like I'm also not the kind of guy that's just gonna sit here and like say things that I just don't believe in. Um, but yeah, it's gonna be fascinating. It's gonna be fascinating to see what people can do to like win votes and like what is gonna be the result of this rocky start that we're about to experience. I mean, my portfolio is down 25%. There's just also like these people are saying like the stock market's not a representation of the economy, and I would never disagree with you. I don't think the stock market represents the economy at all. But here's also what I would say is the stock market is also a big part of the economy. You have a lot of people. There's been like this number going around where it's like there's like $9 trillion has been lost from Americans' pockets since the beginning of the year. And like people, especially on the left, are saying things like, that's the top 1%. Like most people, only 43% of people are in the stock market. Who cares? Like we gotta eat the rich. The rich people are losing money. Who cares? Yeah, Elon has only $200 billion now instead of $300 billion. That's such a sick mindset to have, because first of all, a lot of people have 401ks, and a lot of people's 401ks are invested in big business. So a lot of working class citizens, a lot of people who work very hard, like you and I do, they have their life savings invested in the stock market through their 401ks, which is invested in the bonds and businesses like that. So yes, a lot of regular people who are regular class citizens, who are middle class people, are losing money hand over fist right now. And it's crazy. And I'm not blaming Joe Biden on it at all. Like it was bound to happen eventually. You can't put $6 trillion into the economy and not expect something to happen. But at the same damn time, it's like, Why does everything have to get so politicized? It's a basic fact. The people have lost $9 trillion. It's a lot of money. Nobody wants to lose that much money, and you got to think like your cities are investing in these big businesses as well. I remember there was a story where like when Netflix lost all that money when they came out with their earnings, I think like 2 quarters ago, like the city of Los Angeles lost like so much money because they had so much money invested in Netflix. Like it's like a big issue. Like when the market slides, it's not something to just look over. Like that's a serious crisis, that's a serious problem. And for people to like diminish it and be like it's not a big issue because it only hurts the rich. Nah, dude. Like you also got to understand like the people that are super rich in this country own some companies that employ the most people, and these people are employed at companies that are owned by these individuals, where most of the middle class works. Like this whole idea of eat the rich, I hate it. I cannot stand it. Now, I will go out on a record and I will say I think capitalism is amazing. I think it's the only way that a country can succeed. But I don't think capitalism without some type of restriction. I think capitalism needs some type of restriction, and I think in certain areas more than others. Like healthcare. I think healthcare needs to be very, 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 very much regulated and controlled by the government. I don't think these companies, United Health, Pfizer, Athena, I'm trying to think of other big ones, but like these huge healthcare companies should be allowed to have as much power as they do. Rogan had a gentleman on his podcast it was one of the scariest podcasts I've ever listened to, because the things he was saying were insane. He said this one fact. I don't know how true it is. You can look it up, but he said that a pre-diabetic versus a diabetic patient. So if you have pre-diabetes, the next step is obviously diabetes. Someone who is diabetic makes 7 times more money for the healthcare company than someone who is pre-diabetic. When I heard that number from him, it blew my mind. And he brought up like these just like facts. Like our healthcare system is not a healthcare. Our healthcare system is like sick care. Like we want people to be sick. Like all the medications, all these prescription pills that these companies produce are designed to help people after they get sick. He says something like only 2% of healthcare companies' money is allocated to preventing sickness, preventing, people to get sick. And that's terrifying. Like there's no reason that this country should have such a disaster of a healthcare system. And I think the reason why is because there's only like 4 major players. Let me look them up. And all of this is allegedly major healthcare companies. No, major. There's only a few. There's United Health, Anthem, Johnson and Johnson. Who's the biggest? United Health, Johnson Johnson, CVS Healthcare, and Pfizer. No, that's not. Healthcare insurance companies. That's what I'm trying to look for. Top 10 and nope, insurance plans. And then I think you have, so Athena, Cigna, United Health, Humana. Those are like the 4 big players in the game. And they have the power to do whatever they want, whenever they want, at any time they want. And that was one of the reasons back in 2016 where I was super interested in Bernie Sanders, is because Bernie Sanders is one of those people that says Medicare for all. When you say that objectively, like when you just say that out loud, I go like, yeah, everyone should have healthcare. And I've rambled on about this in a few podcast episodes, but yeah, everyone should have healthcare. Now, how do you get there? I don't know. I don't know how you can get everyone to have healthcare with it being efficient. I was listening to a Full Send podcast, and Kyle, one of the hosts and then like the founder of Full Send, he was talking about healthcare in Canada. He's like, when you get sick in Canada, you need to go to the ER, yeah, everyone has access to the ER, but like you're gonna wait there for hours, like hours on hours on hours, and you may not get the best doctor because these doctors aren't paid like they are in the United States. And like capitalism does do that. Capitalism enables the best product to rise to the top. So if you have like a lot of money in this country, you don't have to worry about not seeing a doctor. You're going to be able to see a doctor because you make the most money, you pay the most money, you put the most money in doctors' pockets, you put the most money in people's pockets that work at these healthcare companies. But when you're just John and Amy, who have 3 kids, and you live in Rehoboth, not Rehoboth, that's a nice area, but you live in like, I don't know, like Dayton, Ohio, and you only have like $30,000 in savings, like, yeah, you're going to be waiting a long time. And in this country, you may not even be able to see a doctor, you know? And I think like that's a real issue. Like I'm very, very much pro capitalism. I've never been like a Marxist. I've never been somebody who has not liked capitalism. You know, I think anybody who doesn't like capitalism, you know, first of all, they always put it out. They usually always tweet it on a platform, which is a product of capitalism. On a phone that was made in China, now soon to be India. But I think I'm also very much somebody who I like to tinker around with a bunch of different ideas. Like Lex Friedman had this guy on his podcast who's he is a educator in Marxism. That's what he does, and it's fascinating to listen to. Like I don't agree with it. I don't agree with most of the things he says, but I don't think it's responsible for somebody to dismiss an idea so quickly. And I think actually what ends up happening is people become very, very suspicious of individuals who dismiss ideas very, very quickly, almost as if they are somewhat guilty themselves. So almost as if like they're attracted to it. And it goes extreme both ways. I mean, I mean, I think a couple of weeks ago there was that thing going around with like the Ariel, like there was going to be a black Ariel, and like these dummies on social media were like talking about like actually this was like written in like a historical time frame by a guy in an area where there was no black people, so like there shouldn't be a black mermaid. And I'm over here like, what? Who cares what the color of a mermaid's skin is? Like, I don't get me wrong. I watch Bridgerton, and like there's black characters, there's Indian characters, there's like Asian characters. And yeah, my first reaction is like, okay, that's not real. Like, that's not real. Like that's historically not accurate. But at the same time, I'm like, it's entertainment. It's like a comedy show. Like, yeah, most of the things they're saying are exaggerated and they're not real. Who am I to sit there and be like, oh, you shouldn't say that because actually during 1846 this wasn't even happening, like this culture wasn't even located in like this region of the country, so like you shouldn't make a movie and have characters that are from this culture or from this race. Like shut up, dude. Like let the mermaid be black, bro. Like there's, I mean, being a white person you never think of it, but like Disney is very, their audience is white people, and they've always catered to that. Snow White, Cinderella, Frozen, all these characters are white. And there is a thing where it's like no black girls, black guys have like heroes in these specific shows. And I don't know, I mean, I'm a white dude, so who am I to speak for them? But it seems like that's not cool. So like to have different like princesses from like different backgrounds, like that's awesome, man. Like I don't understand why people get so upset about that. And like stuff like that, like that's like I go like, huh, what's wrong with that guy? Like why are you so upset about that? It's like the same way where like that person who gets very, very like weird about like gay stuff. Like they're like, dude, I'm telling you, like I'm not gay, bro. Like that's super gay. Like don't do that. And the whole time in the back of your mind, you're like, hey man, we're all friends. Like come out of the closet. No one's mad. You do you, bro. Be whatever you want. You know, who cares, bro? I love you for who you are. I get the same way. with people who get like super upset about like whenever Disney does anything like that or anything like that. Like it's just, I don't know. It's weird. It rubs me the wrong way. Maybe I shouldn't have a reaction to it at all, but it does, man. It rubs me the wrong way. Um, I don't know. I don't really have too much more to cover. I know like the podcasts have been short lately, but I've just kind of been I gotta work, right? I've been looking for a job. It's been hell, dude. I mean, it's been hell. I put out that thing last week, that clip, and it did pretty well. Basically, I just talked about like I've been like a victim of my own life. I've been saying like I've just been blaming the world for my faults, right? And I got to get over that. And I've been trying. I've been working my ass off to get a job, right? And what I want is I want to get a remote job, and I want to get a remote job because I want to work from home, and I also want to be able to live different places. Like Taylor and I want to live different places. Like our lease is up in, which is crazy to say, in March, and we want to move, right? We want to get a 2-bedroom apartment. She needs her office. We want to get a dog, so we want to get a place with a backyard. So we're gonna probably rent out a house. And obviously, like we came here to for me to get this job and save up a lot of money, but I didn't get that job and it didn't really work out. And I've been just kind of like stuck in a place where I've been angry about that. And I've been blaming the world for my mistakes. And anyways, I don't want to get into it too much, but basically, I've been looking for a job for a long time now. I've been getting a bunch of interviews, but they're a bunch of sales positions and like they're a bunch of BS companies. And I don't want to put any company on blast, but like these sales companies, man, they are just brutal and like salute people who can do it. But like, I mean, they don't give you any training. They sell you on this dream. Like they use those words like passive income, all this nonsense to get you to work for them. But the company's complete BS. Like you don't do anything for anybody. And I've just kind of been waiting, like I've just been waiting and it sucks. And like waiting is not fun. Like waiting sucks. I feel like I've been just holding my breath for like a whole year now at this point, and that's not fun. That's not ideal. That's not what I want. Like I want a situation where I can work 40 hours from my laptop and just need internet connection to be able to travel. But the issue with that is like there's not a lot. I mean, there's a lot of jobs out there, but a lot of them like sales positions. I've been looking for like a marketing position, and I have a lot of experience in that, and I know I could land something. And I'm just gotten to this point now where I'm just working door dashing. I'm doing the best I can, and I'm applying to at least like 15 jobs a day, and something's going to end up happening for me. And I've just kind of had to change my mind state from going to being the victim to just taking control of my own life. And I've been almost like embarrassed about where I am in my life because I turned 26, and you just kind of get in this, you kind of go like, man, my life isn't where I thought it would be. But I have everything though. That's a weird thing. Like I always think about like if you take me and you put it with somebody who has like, a job where they're making 100K a year, but they're single and they don't want to be single, and like they're depressed and like they're not really proud of like the decisions they made. And then you have me who's, not making 100K a year, making tens of thousands of dollars a year, but I'm in a beautiful relationship, a supporting relationship. I have my own place. I have a family that loves me. I have health that's incredible. I have a body that works. I'm not depressed. Like, which one would I want to be? And when I put it like that, I go like, I want to be me. Like, I love me. I'm awesome. I like being me. I like having a podcast. I like creating. I like doing things like that. And I think I just kind of got stuck in like this feel bad for me phase, which that's some beta stuff, right, bro? So I've been getting out of that, and I think I'm out of it now, and that does make me happy, right? Like I don't want to be in that state. That's not a fun state to be in. It's not a fun state to be in where you just wake up and you feel like dog crap every single day. So I've shaken it. I think I have, and I might slip back into it, but as of right now, I'm very happy with what I'm doing, and it is what it is. Sometimes things don't work out, and that's okay. But as time goes on, and Taylor and I also have decided to get a dog. So we're going to get a dog. I don't really want to give too much information out. I'm not going to give out the breed or anything, but it's a big dog. And we're not going to rescue it. I apologize to all those rescuing people. Hey, man, listen up here. I have rescued 4 dogs in my life. A German Shepherd Husky, a Malinois German Shepherd. I guess Charlie was not a rescue. And then Riley. I've done my fair share of rescuing. It's time for me to get a dog that comes completely healthy. And that's my choice. And it's a protection dog, and it's a dog that we're gonna hopefully get probably December, January, around that time frame, maybe a little bit earlier, but I would be sure to make sure people know about him in the podcasting world. But it's a dog that Taylor, she's always wanted a big dog, and it's a dog that I've always been very fascinated about, and it's such a badass looking dog. And I just brought it up to Taylor one day, and she's like, yes, that's the one I want. I was like, okay, F it, let's get it. So hopefully within like the next few months, we'll go ahead and get that dog. And what we want is to like be out of this place so we have a better place for the dog to live. But that's neither here nor there. But yeah, guys, I don't really have much more to talk about. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, share with your friends. If you didn't, that's fine. If you guys enjoying the clips, I put out a clip every single day. I also have a money page that I do. I do like Mike, I think it's like Mike Amateur Finance, something like that. Go ahead and follow that if you guys want to. It's on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube Shorts. I have a separate YouTube page for it. It's only like 20-something subscribers, but it's fun. I get to give out like tips that I do with my money. I've always created stuff, whether it was a clothing company, whether it was a Call of Duty page, whether it was a fitness page, whether it was a podcast. Well, I've always created things. It's what I do. It's fun. But yeah, guys, thank you guys so much for listening. Until then, I'll catch you guys in November. Peace out. Or October. And it's Taylor's birthday, and I knocked it out of the water this year with her birthday. So I might get her on. We might talk about that. We'll see. I don't know. Who knows? Who knows what we're going to do? But I'm going to go DoorDash in hurricane because it's a hurricane outside right now from Hurricane Ian. Shout out to Florida. Be safe, guys. I love you. Peace out.